When you choose silence, you are not ignoring the world. You are mastering it. You are refusing to be pulled into meaningless debates, emotional reactions, or the chaos of unnecessary words. A Stoic commands respect not because they talk the loudest, but because they speak only when it matters. And their silence in every other moment says more than words ever could. In this video, we'll explore how silence can become your greatest strength, how it can help you gain respect without saying a word, and how you can practice the ancient Stoic art of stillness in your daily life. Whether you're facing conflict, trying to earn trust, or simply seeking inner peace, understanding the power of silence will change the way you interact with the world. The Stoic philosophy of silence. To the Stoics, silence was never empty, it was full of intention, awareness, and power. They believed that a wise person speaks little but observes much. In a world driven by noise, Stoic silence is a mark of inner discipline and self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, often wrote in his journal about the importance of restraint. He believed that unnecessary words dilute our character. In Meditations, he says, better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. For the Stoic, speech is a tool, not a habit. If it doesn't serve truth, justice, or necessity, it's better left unspoken. Epictetus taught that we should practice silence, especially when emotions run high. He advised, keep silence for the most part, and speak only when you must, and then briefly. He didn't mean silence as avoidance, but as control, a way to avoid being enslaved by impulses. Every time we stay silent in anger or arrogance, we are proving that we are not ruled by the moment. Seneca, too, warned about idle talk and gossip, describing it as a sign of a restless and undisciplined mind. He wrote, speech that does no good should be considered silence, and worse. To the Stoics, careless words were a waste of life energy. They chose instead to engage with clarity and brevity only when necessary. Stoic silence is not about hiding or being timid. It is a posture of self-possession. It is the refusal to be reactive, the choice to listen more than we speak, and the inner resolve to remain anchored when others are swept away by emotion or ego. In practicing this kind of silence, we shift power inward. We no longer seek validation from noise, nor do we fear being misunderstood. We find strength in holding out peace. And in that silence, the world begins to lean in, to watch, to listen, and to respect the presence we carry. Why speaking less often means more influence in a society where everyone is eager to speak. The one who speaks less stands out. The Stoics understood this deeply. Silence creates mystery, and mystery commands attention. When you speak only when necessary, your words carry more weight. People begin to lean in rather than tune out. Think about the people you admire most: leaders, mentors, or even friends whose presence holds gravity. Chances are they don't ramble or dominate conversations. Instead, they speak with intention. Their words are rare, but when they do speak, everyone listens. Why? Because silence has already done half the work. Seneca wrote, speech is not strength. Sometimes it is an escape. Those who talk constantly often do so to fill space, to prove something, or to hide their insecurity. But when you withhold your voice until it matters, you demonstrate a level of confidence that is impossible to fake. It signals that you are not desperate to be seen or heard. You already are. From a psychological perspective, people associate silence with power. The ability to remain quiet under pressure, to listen instead of react, to delay a response. These are all signs of emotional control, and control is deeply respected, even feared, in negotiations. The person who can stay quiet longest often wins. In leadership, the one who doesn't react impulsively earns loyalty. In relationships, the one who listens deeply becomes irreplaceable. Epictetus advised, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. The Stoic doesn't seek to impress with many words. Instead, they observe, reflect, and when the moment is right, they speak with clarity and impact. Less speech, more influence. That's the paradox the Stoics mastered. When you train yourself to value silence, you train others to value your voice. And in a world where everyone is shouting, your calm, measured silence becomes a roar. Emotional control, silence, overreaction. The true test of strength is not how loudly you speak, but how calmly you stay silent. For the Stoics, silence wasn't just about wisdom. It was a powerful method of emotional control. In moments of conflict, insult, or provocation, they didn't lash out, they paused. They practiced silence, not because they were passive, but because they were in charge of themselves. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, no one can control your emotions unless you hand them the keys. And the easiest way to give someone power over you, reacting instantly, emotionally, and loudly. When you stay silent in the heat of the moment, you deny your opponent what they want most, your reaction. You don't validate the insult. You don't feed the fire. You hold your ground. Anchored like a mountain in a storm, silence becomes your armor. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and faced endless betrayal, disappointment, and conflict, wrote in Meditations, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused it? A sharp word in return, a rash decision, or a reactive outburst can damage far more than whatever slight triggered it." The Stoic teaches us to break that chain by doing one thing, saying nothing. This silence is not weakness. It is self-possession. It means your emotions answer to your reason, not the other way around. Instead of letting someone else dictate the tempo of your response, you stay in control. In silence, there is reflection. In silence, there is space for wisdom to rise before action is taken. And in that space, you gain power not just over others, but over yourself. When you learn to stay silent in anger, pain, or fear, you unlock the deepest form of strength, the ability to respond rather than react. Non-reactivity, the ultimate power move. Power isn't always loud. In fact, real power is often silent and still. One of the greatest Stoic lessons is this: non-reactivity is a weapon. It disarms the manipulator, frustrates the aggressor, and elevates you above petty conflict. It's the ultimate power move. The Stoics believe that reacting emotionally to every external event is a sign of weakness. Anyone can shout back, get offended, or let anger boil over, but it takes strength to do nothing, to remain centered, to stay unshaken in the face of chaos. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This principle is at the core of Stoic non-reactivity. Life will test you, people will insult you, situations will provoke you, but the Stoic chooses how to respond. And often, the best response is silence. Imagine someone attacking your character in a meeting. The natural instinct is to defend, to fight back, to clear your name. But the Stoic pauses. They know that jumping into battle out of emotion rarely serves them. Instead, they allow the dust to settle. Speak only when it benefits truth, and even then calmly and briefly. Non-reactivity isn't passivity. It's presence. It's observing without absorbing. It's choosing not to give your peace away just because someone else lost theirs. The modern world sees silence as weakness, but in truth, silence under pressure is dominance. Seneca wrote, "Anger, an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." Non-reactivity is the refusal to carry that acid. It is how you protect your mind, your energy, your dignity. So, when the pressure builds, when someone tries to pull you into their storm, remember this: your silence is not surrender. Is your signal that you are in control, not them. Silence in leadership, the power of presence. Leadership isn't about how much you say, it's about how you carry yourself when you say nothing. The Stoics understood that the most powerful leaders often speak the least, not because they have nothing to say, but because their presence says it all. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome, ruling over millions. He had the authority to command armies with a word. Yet, in Meditations, he often wrote about restraint, humility, and stillness. He believed that true leadership meant mastering yourself before leading others, and that silence, used wisely, was more commanding than any speech. We've all seen the opposite. Loud leaders who constantly speak, micromanage, interrupt, and dominate every room. But noise is not influence. In fact, the more a person talks, the less power their words carry. People respect those who speak with purpose and listen with depth. The Stoic leader lets their actions do the talking. They observe before they judge. They reflect before they decide. They listen before they respond. This quiet confidence creates an atmosphere of trust and clarity because people follow stability, not noise. In silence, the Stoic leader creates space for others to speak. This shows respect and fosters collaboration. In restraint, they avoid careless words that damage morale or spark conflict. And in presence, calm, composed, and focused, they inspire without needing applause. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." The same applies to speech. The leader who constantly craves attention, validation, or control through words reveals their insecurity. But the one who governs themselves silently gains the respect of others naturally. Silence is presence, presence is power, and power, when tempered by wisdom, is what makes a Stoic leader truly unshakable. The discipline of listening to the Stoics. Listening was not just a skill, it was a virtue. While most people speak to be heard, the Stoic listens to understand. And in that quiet act, they gain something far more valuable than attention. They gain wisdom, perspective, and respect. Epictetus made it clear, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." This wasn't just clever wordplay, it was a call to cultivate discipline. Because real listening isn't passive, it's active, deliberate, and requires the humility to learn from others. Most people listen with the intent to reply. They hear only enough to prepare their counterargument, their opinion, their interruption. The Stoic does the opposite. He listens fully, patiently, and without ego. He knows that the wise man learns even from the fool, but the fool learns from no one. Listening also builds influence. When people feel heard, they trust you. They open up. They seek your presence again. A leader or a friend who truly listens is rare and therefore powerful. In a world of noise, silence paired with attention becomes magnetic. Seneca observed, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence." The Stoic understands that silence is not just the absence of sound, but the space that allows meaning to surface. That's why they listen, not to react, not to judge, but to grow. The discipline of listening also strengthens the Stoic's inner fortress. By taking in information without emotional reaction, they become more aware, more measured, and less prone to rash decisions. They hear what others miss and they respond with precision. So when the world rushes to speak, choose instead to listen. In that silence, you will not only understand others better, you will come to know yourself with deeper clarity. Mastering the pause. Timing is everything in Stoicism. Power is not just found in what you say or don't say, but when you say it. The Stoic learns to master the pause, that brief but powerful space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom, clarity, and the chance to choose a wise response over a foolish one. Marcus Aurelius understood the power of timing. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When someone insults you, they want to provoke an immediate reaction. But the Stoic pauses. In that pause, emotion dissolves and reason awakens. It's not delay for the sake of delay, it's restraint with purpose." Why is the pause so powerful? Because the first impulse is rarely the best one. Anger wants to speak quickly. Ego wants to defend immediately. But truth, wisdom, and strength often arrive slower. The pause gives them time to surface. Think of it like archery. The archer doesn't release the arrow as soon as the bow is drawn. He holds it, breathes, aligns. That pause ensures precision. The same goes for your words. When you wait just a moment before speaking, your message becomes clearer, sharper, and more impactful. Seneca advised, "A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand." Words are the same, used recklessly. They wound, used wisely. They lead. The pause is what transforms speech from reaction to command. In conversations, the pause creates gravity. It shows that you're thinking, not scrambling. It shows confidence, not desperation. It slows down the room. People take notice, but most importantly, the pause guards your peace. It lets you step back from emotion and choose a higher path. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every moment needs your voice. Some of the most powerful decisions are made in silence just before you choose to speak. So practice the pause, not just for effect, but for truth. In that quiet space, you'll find your power. How to practice Stoic silence in daily life. Silence isn't just a concept, it's a habit, a discipline, and a way of being. The Stoics didn't merely talk about silence, they lived it. And you can too, but it requires intention. Practicing Stoic silence in daily life means choosing stillness over reaction, reflection over response, and presence over performance. So, how do you begin? 1. Begin the day with inner silence. Before checking your phone, before speaking to anyone, sit with yourself. Breathe, observe your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius began each morning by grounding himself in reflection. That first quiet moment builds a mental shield for the noise of the day. 2. Speak less than you think. This doesn't mean becoming mute, it means choosing your words deliberately. Ask yourself before speaking, is this necessary? Is this kind? Is this wise? If not, let it pass. Seneca said, "It is better to be silent than to speak foolishly." 3. Practice active listening. When in conversation, resist the urge to interrupt or dominate. Let others speak. Focus fully on their words without crafting your reply. Listening is a form of silence, and it builds respect, trust, and understanding. 4. Delay your reactions. When triggered by a rude comment, a stressful email, or a frustrating moment, pause. Count to 5. Take a deep breath. You're not avoiding the problem. You're ensuring that you decide how to respond, not your emotions. 5. Create quiet zones. Designate parts of your day or environments where you don't speak unless necessary. Your car, your evening walk, or even the first 15 minutes after coming home. These are your temples of stillness. 6. Write instead of speak. When emotions are high or your thoughts are complex, write them down. Journaling, like Marcus Aurelius did, turns noisy thoughts into clear insight. It gives your voice space to breathe without pressure. 7. Watch how silence affects others. Notice how people respond to your quiet. Often, they'll open up more. They'll lean in. They'll respect your composure. Your presence becomes your message. Stoic silence isn't about being cold or disconnected. It's about being rooted in self-control, in wisdom, and in purpose. The more you practice it, the less you'll be pulled into emotional storms, and the more you'll live from a place of deep inner power. When to speak. The Stoic rule of necessary words. The Stoic is not silent out of fear or avoidance, but out of discernment. Silence is their default, but not their prison. They know when to remain quiet, and just as importantly, when to speak. Stoicism doesn't glorify speechlessness. It teaches that our words should be like medicine, used only when they serve a clear purpose. Seneca wrote, "Speech is only necessary where silence is dangerous." This is the Stoic rule. Speak only when it adds value, restores peace, defends truth, or serves the good. Anything beyond that is noise. So, how do Stoics decide when to speak? 1. When silence would enable harm or injustice. Silence is powerful, but never at the cost of integrity. If someone is being wronged, if a lie is spreading, or if truth is being silenced, the Stoic speaks not loudly, but firmly. As Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. 2. When your words bring clarity, not confusion. Before speaking, ask, will this clarify or complicate? Heal or divide? Strengthen or distract? The Stoic voice is like a well-placed sword, strike clean, effective, and only used when necessary. Free. When emotions have settled. Even when something needs to be said, timing matters. The Stoic doesn't speak in the storm, they wait until the wind dies down. Then they speak from reason, not reaction. A calm voice is more powerful than a loud one. 4. When listening has run its course. After fully understanding a situation, the Stoic speaks not to dominate, but to guide, correct, or reflect. Their words are brief, clear, and grounded in truth. 5. When teaching or uplifting. The Stoic uses words to build others, not break them. They don't speak to show off, they speak to share what's useful. Wisdom, encouragement, warning, and gratitude, these are all worthy of speech. The Stoic ideal is measured speech, not too much, not too little, just enough, the right word at the right time, delivered with the right intention. That's power. So the next time you feel the urge to speak, pause, ask, is this necessary? Is this kind? Is this wise? If the answer is no, let silence speak for you. Common misconceptions about silence and weakness. In a world obsessed with noise, silence is often misunderstood. People mistake it for shyness, submission, or even weakness. But to the Stoic, silence is none of these. It is strength under control. It is the refusal to waste energy on things that don't deserve a response. And more than that, it is proof of a deeply rooted confidence. One common misconception is that if you don't speak up, people will walk all over you. But the Stoic knows that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every opinion is worth sharing. Silence doesn't mean agreement. It means discernment. It's the art of choosing your moments, rather than being dragged into every noise that demands your attention. Another belief is that quiet people lack courage. In reality, nothing takes more courage than restraint. Anyone can shout, argue, or retaliate. But it takes deep inner stability to stay calm while being misunderstood, insulted, or underestimated. The Stoic understands that the loudest person in the room is often the most afraid. Many also think that silence equals ignorance, but wisdom rarely needs to announce itself. The Stoics didn't seek to impress others, they sought to master themselves. As Epictetus put it, only the educated are free, and freedom includes the freedom to remain silent when others expect you to perform. The truth is this: silence is uncomfortable for most people because it reveals things. It reveals who's truly listening. It reveals who's at peace, and it reveals who's really in control. That's why those who practice Stoic silence often stand out without trying. So don't be swayed by the world's confusion. Your silence is not emptiness, it is presence. It is not passivity, it is power. It is not weakness, it is wisdom, choosing when, how, and if to speak at all. Conclusion: let your silence speak loudly. In the end, the Stoics' power lies not in how much they say, but in how little they need to. In a world overflowing with words, opinions, and endless noise, the rarest and most commanding voice is silence. The great Stoics Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus did not chase attention. They did not speak to impress. They spoke when it mattered and remained silent when it didn't. Their silence was not a lack of expression, it was a presence, a force, a discipline. And through it, they commanded respect. You don't need to prove yourself with every conversation. You don't need to react to every insult or defend every misunderstanding. Your strength is not diminished by your silence, it is revealed through it. Each time you choose to remain calm, measured, and composed, you show that you are not a prisoner of your impulses. You lead yourself. Let your silence speak loudly. Let it speak of patience, restraint, wisdom, and self-control. Let it reveal the kind of person who doesn't need to shout to be heard, because your presence already speaks for you. In practicing Stoic silence, you don't retreat from life, you rise above it. You listen more, reflect deeper, and speak only what is true, necessary, and kind. And in doing so, you embody a power that the noisy world cannot understand but deeply respects. So the next time you're tempted to speak, ask yourself, is this noise, or is this value? And if it's noise, let silence be your answer.